All right, everybody, I am Andrew Badella. That is Blake Mitchmore. We are live for Thanks for the House. Normally, this is a Tuesday show, but we figured with all the happenings here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the fallout from SummerSlam and a massive, in my opinion, Monday Night Raw headed your way tonight, figured why not? Why not go live? And we are. It is a beautiful afternoon here in Minnesota. The fallout and the remnants, people are still kind of getting into the airports. They're leaving. Some people are going to stay, but overall, a fantastic weekend here for the WWE and Minnesota. We'll get into the attendance thing that I talked about, but all things considered, very, very smooth 2 nights, at least from my perspective, from being in the building. In and out, no problems. But before we get into all that, Blake Mitchmore, how the hell are you?
I am good, man. I agree. We'll talk about it. I think there's a lot of, you could make an argument whether this was the greatest SummerSlam or not, but there's a lot of talking points coming out of this show this weekend, man.
For sure. The one thing that I do want to mention that I don't see a lot of people talking about, because maybe some of the content creators, providers, whatever, didn't go. I ran into a couple people at the takeover for WWE, which was like the Fan Fest, and even WrestleCon. Both events, first of all, if you have small children, all right, you need to take them to the WWE takeover. I understand the WWE World, when it's WrestleMania, costs money to get into. This was completely free to walk into.
Wow. Okay.
And then you pay for certain things. But if you're a club WWE member, you bowl pass lines and everything else like that. And it was really an awesome experience for your kids. Don't get me wrong. I waited in line for the ESPN WWE top rope experience where my kid got to jump off the top rope onto a crash pad in a ring and make a trading card of it. But it was worth the wait. I mean, it's experiences and memories that you'll hold for a lifetime. He got to do his own entrance and stuff like that. Again, if they happen to bring a SummerSlam to your area, or you want to go, or even a Royal Rumble, or whatever they do a fan fest for, I'm telling you, if you have young kids, go. It was the best event WWE has ever put on that I've been a part of. WWE World's fun. Don't get me wrong, but it costs something to get into, and it's always, always packed. Even WrestleCon, I want to shout out the nice people at WrestleCon. They hooked me, my son, my brother and his son, and Juice with wristbands, which I so greatly appreciate for the 3 days. They were extremely hospitable with Will Ospreay. My son wanted to meet him badly, so I got that done. Not normally a meet and greet person, but I do things for my children and my family. But again, WrestleCon, very well laid out and structured. It was a good time all around. And I want to shout out the people I ran into. I appreciate it. I always appreciate the love, kind words, especially in front of my kid, because my kid doesn't really ever see people asking for pictures or whatever and stuff like that. So it was very, very nice and very, very humbling. Shout out to a bunch of people I saw as well, Wheezy and some others. Always good to connect and say hello. Keep doing what you're doing. But yeah, overall, great experience here in Minnesota. I know people were all over the crowds and the size and everything else like that. And yes, I even put the post out. They did not talk about, no announcement. When Justin Jefferson was on the table, I looked at my son and I said, we're probably going to get an attendance number.
I thought
we
so
didn't.
too.
Yeah, and we didn't. And I thought to myself, all right, let me go look at some things. I work in the industry. I was looking at the manifest. I was looking at tickets sold, comps, all that other stuff. And don't get me wrong, there were over 70,000 people both nights. But I think WWE just played it safe and decided not to announce an attendance number. So fans didn't make a big deal about it. They want to control the narrative. Listen, they've done a lot of different things to do that, unless you're living under a rock. The most interesting thing I would say that WWE did this weekend, although don't get me wrong, I'm sure some of the questions, because I can only say this because of all the things that have happened and the rooms that I've been in, I think some of those questions might have been screened, not planted. But when they did the post-show press conference, and they had Triple H in front of a live media members, I thought that was interesting because they seem to be all but done with that. They didn't do it on Sunday, which I totally understand. But again,
but I think I think the key thing to point out about that is that it's with what they've done with front office sports, with what they've done with radio, WWE now, or WWE radio, they can present that environment, but it's more controlled than it was in the past still.
For sure. And here's the thing for all the media members who maybe didn't get invited or didn't go or whatever, just remember, you don't have to be bought and sold. You don't have to. You can continue to do your content and continue to go do things and continue to make and have a footprint in this space or this industry without having to grovel or kiss ass or not say what you mean. And I have always lived my life like that. And I say the attendance number for me is never a big deal, but I'm going to say it. WWE did not put it out there. And I think it was a preventative measure for the discourse online. Was the attendance low? By my standards, no, it wasn't. My standards being somebody who's in the industry. Now, when you could put 35 plus each night, realistically, you're probably getting, if you do this in one night, you're probably getting upwards of 50, 60, I would say, easily. So they did 2 nights. Having 35,000 people in a building each night, I get it. The building holds 70,000 people. I didn't think it was this travesty or this debacle that a lot of people are referring to. I just think this is, again, something that WWE and TKO will have to learn from. If they want 70,000 people per night for a SummerSlam, they're going to have to adjust their prices, but for tickets. But realistically, dude, I don't think they give a shit because they're making money hand over fist with site fees and everything else like that, media rights contracts. And I understand. This is a live event business, and that live crowd is something you absolutely need. But you cannot tell me, because I was in the building, that crowd wasn't lively. KO returned, and the building was rocking. And then Chelsea won, and the building was rocking again. So I'm just saying.
And I think that's a good place to start and a good thing to jump off with is, I think you had it right. Like, look, when if you're talking about like 22, 23, when it came back out of COVID and the bloodline was screaming and going full bore, sure, they probably would have put 60,000 in this building both nights. It's a different it's a different thing. It's just, 35,000 in any building is really good. Yeah. It's really good.
It's you can't. There's hardly. I don't think there's any.
There's
no arenas right now that hold 35,000
in America right now that if you play back-to-back games, and you can't because it's football and you can't have
Super Bowl
NFL games back-to-back days and physically, but if you could, that's the only sport in America that would sell out stadiums night in, night out.
Yeah, and again, I think you're going to see when they announce the Rumble venue. It's not my news to break. It's because that's just not who I am. It's going to be. That event's going to be big, and I think a lot of people are going to go to that. A lot, because they're going to stay home from WrestleMania. And that's why WWE is already promoting that New York takeover that they're doing to watch WrestleMania and to go to 2 events. It's 2 birds, 1 stone. A lot of people are saying, do you think that people will look at this and think that it's disappointing? I think those executives and those who are on the board in Endeavor TKO will probably look at this as a disappointment, because at the end of the day, in terms of attendance, at the end of the day, they want an ass every 18 inches, and they didn't facilitate that. So
I think they look at it as a disappointment to a degree, but this, Drew, from running business just like I do. At the end of the day, you look at this event after you factor everything, and did you make money or did you not? And if you made money, it's a win.
Well, we're going to get that quarterly call today. So
yeah,
just
regardless
saying.
of what the attendance is, if you came out on the positive of the balance sheet of this event, you won.
What is the narrative?
Loss, yes, it's very disappointing.
Yeah, what's the narrative, Blake, today after today when they do the quarterly call and they say that their numbers are through the roof? Because people are going to ask projections. Hey, do we have an early projection on SummerSlam and that event that took place in Minnesota? And if they say, this and that, and we're up, and obviously, year after year, they're probably not up. I also don't know the exact number of, or I should say dollars and cents for the site fee that went to Minnesota versus what New Jersey paid. New Jersey paid a lot for that event to be in New Jersey and to be 2 nights. So I'm going to guess that it's going to be different or less than year after year. But at the end of the day, if they still make money and it's viewed as a success, not only in social media, but their checkbook, forget about it. That's why they didn't announce the number, because at the end of the day, they could control the narrative. So So
absolutely. That's at the end. And this doesn't just go for WWE. We'll talk about AEW here in a little bit. It's the same for any wrestling company. At the end of the day, if you make money, that's what matters. It doesn't matter whether you have 5,000 fans in a 90,000 seat building or you have 90,000. Did you make money that day?
well, and the thing is too is that if they're making money hand over fist in other avenues, which they are, because Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel have their hands in so many different jars and so many profitable jars for WWE. WWE chopped up TKO, chopped up media rights, not only with UFC, but with the WWE. And they have so many different entities on so many different avenues where they're generating insane income. So maybe they look at the live attendance and they're like, we're just going to charge whatever we're going to charge and we don't care. And if the fans want to go online and talk about how stupid it is, let's just talk about our year-to-year growth and everything else like that. And
I think
cash
you
flow.
nailed it. Like, I think you nailed it though. Like, they want the attendance. There's no doubt. But at the end of the day, that is not the determining factor in whether the event was a financial success or not.
Right.
Okay. So obviously there's a lot to talk about from SummerSlam. We talked about the tickets. Let's just talking points of each night. I thought you see a lot of debate, night one versus night two. I thought night two, with the moments that night two generated, and then the masterclass that I thought the main event was, I thought that was by far the better of the two nights. I didn't think night one was bad by any means. Couple of big topics, and I mentioning like kind of where we go from here.
Sure.
I thought it was kind of odd that they immediately announced Nick Aldis was going back to his GM role.
How would you have liked them to have done that? Go ahead.
I think there's some.
You want him to earn it back? He's got to beat somebody?
No, I would have. I wouldn't have minded seeing Nick go back to being a wrestler, at least for a little while. I think there's some real estate with Nick being a wrestler on WWE TV. What it does make me wonder is, at this point in his career, does Nick want that?
So here's what I'll say. Good question, right? Does Nick want this? When I don't want to be the guy that like, you should definitely follow me because I'm a good follow, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to do that. But when I put something out, there's always something that you should pay attention to. And when I put out that Nick Aldis got Oasis for SummerSlam, okay, that's not cheap. And I knew right then and there that win, lose, or draw, he was done. And I truly believe that. And that's why he was immediately thrusted back into the general manager spot. Now, could Nick return? Sure, he could. If they need him, he's in a pinch, or they're in a pinch and they need an opponent and blah, 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 blah. They could absolutely do that. But when Nick got Oasis, he got his wife and kid in the ring. I looked, and even before the wife and kid got in the ring, I said it's over. And then Nick talked about how he was blown up 5 minutes into the match, and that there's,
he was,
and and listen, you know this because you played sports, and I have played sports and continued to play sports. We both played at a decently high level. There is no such, like, you can't prepare for that type of.
And Nick talked about that in his interview with CVV. Like, that was his concern. Was
I could go run drills.
Physically look, it was wind.
Yeah. I could go run drills all day, but until you step on the field and get on the field to play football, 100%. Or I could go throw a bullpen, and then until I get on the mound to throw, it's completely different. So I knew when Nick got Oasis, it was over. Again, not the guy to tell you to follow me, but there's a reason why some people are like, how come you weren't doing critiques of every match? Or why weren't, because some things just don't need to be said. You're watching it, you're digesting it. You don't need me to sit back and be like, hey, this is what you should pay attention to. There's a lot of different things that happened on this card that didn't need an over explanation. That's why I don't do the immediate post-show review shows, because it's just like, brother, we just watched this, or sister, we just watched this. I don't need you to tell me what I just watched. Hopefully, I've been watching this enough to understand and acknowledge what I saw. So, again, I don't think Nick Aldis steps anywhere near a ring unless they're in a pinch.
Yeah. I think something we're talking about, and I just saw a little bit of, I guess breaking news to a degree. Brie Bella announced that she has a broken scapula. That was the injury.
Yikes.
Which means she's gone for a while, which I think is interesting because obviously you saw it, which was predictable. I think everybody with half a brain thought that's how the ending of that match was going to play out.
Sure,
But
Paige would go on a singles run or find a tag
I
team
see.
partner.
That's where I disagree with you. I
Well,
don't
now
think
it's not happening.
but no, I think it is happening now. So what I think was happening before, the plan, in my opinion, would have been that that's where AJ Lee would come back and they would run back the WrestleMania 31 tag with Paige and AJ Lee versus the Bellas.
Yes.
Now I think you're going to be getting obviously Nikki versus Paige at least once, but that's the interesting thing. I think moving forward for that is where does Nikki and Paige fit in after they have their one match? Because I don't think that was the plan.
Well, obviously not. The plan was for the Bellas to go on a tag team run here
Right.
and probably have it end in Saudi Arabia. Whether that comes to fruition or not, don't know, don't believe so. Obviously, the tag run's not happening right now, but they're going to use Nikki in a singles capacity. To what extent, I don't know. Paige as well now, but there's a lot of and thankfully at this point in the wrestling industry and in time, we have the women's kind of mid-card titles. And
yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of talent to be thrown around there. We just crowned I believe Roxanne, and you have that whole thing with the Judgment Day, and the Judgment Day right now.
Roxanne.
No, I know, but Roxanne, Raquel, and Liv are all thrusted into championship, picture right now. Roxanne's
not.
I mean, she's with the Judgment Day. I have a funny feeling that Roxanne and Raquel are going to be facing each other sooner rather than later. Roxanne's going to distance herself or get thrown out. And, what do you do with Nikki and Paige? I think it's a perfect opportunity to get them into the Women's Intercontinental Championship, picture. The women's tag team titles, listen, I don't hate on that. The men's tag team titles at times are flops, but right now I think the focus needs to be on those two, kind of headed towards a singles run for both of them because of what happened to Brie. So
I agree. Punk versus Cody. I personally like the ending of it because we talked about this on Thursday with Jordan. I firmly believe that Cody needs to move away from the title picture, at least for a short period of time.
They are. You're 100%. I mean, me and you talked about that privately. Cody's done. He's going to have not done. He's going to feud with Randy for at least, I would say, 2 months. Yeah. I could see a Randy-led team at War Games and a Cody-led team at War Games where that kind of ends it. Because I don't know if you're getting some Bloodline stuff right now.
I wouldn't hate that because they've hammered the Bloodline so much in War Games that if you go away from it, that would not be a bad idea at all.
And you want to know what? If you really wanted to do a Bloodline versus something, I mean, Seth and Roman, what we saw at the conclusion of SummerSlam on one team would be pretty sweet. But I don't know how you get to a Bloodline versus Seth and Roman, and I guess the Usos. I think the Bloodline is best left off of a War Games match this year. Go with a Cody-led team versus a Randy-led team. And again, that keeps Cody out of the World Championship picture for now. Punk and Kevin Owens, dude, we'll talk about that, obviously, but I'm here for, I would love to see that for the next 3 months. It's 6 months. There's so much on that bone.
Yeah, we will talk about that. The SmackDown title scene is great, in my opinion. Yeah.
Great.
Which we'll talk about Raw too. The Raw title scene I'm interested in for a whole nother reason. I think one of the bigger talking points from Saturday, Oba versus Brock. The match was what it was. I mean, was it bad? No. Could it have been a lot better? Yes.
Were people, we were leaving the building and I didn't kind of check reactions or whatever, but were people all over this? Were they mad?
The only thing that people were all over was the tombstone spot. And there's a ridiculous debate that everybody turned into AEW versus WWE, which is stupid.
Oh, because Oba kicked out?
Yes, which is stupid because selling is not what it is in either company anymore.
Let me explain something, because you're right. But I want to explain something to those who didn't understand because when it was happening in real time, I thought to myself, wow, this guy just kicked out of a tombstone pile driver on wood. But then I thought about it and I was like, oh shit, this is a callback to when Brock did it to Taker. If you go back and watch the match, Brock did so many callbacks to him and Taker's feud that it was like, oh shit, here we go. Got it. So again, I understand, in the moment, hindsight being 2020, you're sitting there and you're like, wow, this guy just kicked out of a tombstone pile driver on exposed wood. I get it, but it was a callback. Brock did that to Taker. And this was Brock basically saying, because Brock doesn't do this. Brock does not put his stamp on people. And he's done it to 3 people, since he's been this guy. And
Well,
Oba
hold
is
on.
now the 3rd guy.
But he has never done it in the way he did to Oba to anybody else.
With the microphone, no, but he has put his stamp on other people. He went above and beyond for Oba Femi.
And that's the big thing I want to talk about coming out of that match. I understand that Brock is a very polarizing figure. A lot of people don't like him because of the connections to the whole Vince McMahon thing. I get all of that, but here's one thing that's undeniable about Brock Lesnar. He is a major star, and he is a crossover star that people outside of the wrestling bubble know who he is.
Yeah, my dad knows who Brock Lesnar is, and he probably can only name like one other wrestler currently in the WWE right now.
And that is the only time in his career he has ever done that, taking a microphone to put somebody over.
Yep. The fair criticism that I will give, that I saw a little bit of, was that this was, we were kind of, I don't want to say we were pre-programmed, because we kind of were, to that Hell in a Cell is going to be bloody, gory. Yeah. There was none of this. There was no violence in this match. They exposed the ring. Yes, I get that, which is violence in itself. Because that's something. But realistically, I did feel like the bloodlust and the feud that we were kind of talking about, even with the promo package. There was blood in the promo package. Like, that's how the graphics were. And I was like, oh shit, this is going to be awesome. It's not that I'm not bloodthirsty, but this feud could have easily been a little bit more in that Hell in the Cell, in terms of, I don't need thumbtacks. I don't need glass. I don't need syringes, but man, you could have done a little bit more once you announce a Hell in a Cell.
100% agree. Like I said, this match was fine, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, the match was what the match was, but realistically, when I sat down and I got a call and they were like, "Hey, Brock is main eventing," I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be a bloodbath," and then it just wasn't, which is fine.
I think it is what it is. He main evented because of what he did at the end.
He main evented because he pushed a main event, because I think realistically, will Brock reject a multi-million-dollar Saudi payday at WrestleMania? No, but I don't think you're going to see Brock Lesnar until WrestleMania.
And I think that will be Brock's final match.
Yeah, I could see Brock having a match at WrestleMania and Oba Femi, either if things fall through with The Rock or whatever, and we don't get Rock and Roman, and we end up getting Roman and Oba. I could see Brock Lesnar coming out and high-fiving Oba and giving him a hug and all that other stuff at the end of WrestleMania. I could see that.
That part, I will say to this, and then we'll move on to Sunday. Sure. Oba's comments in the post-show were interesting to me because, and there was some hinting around. Paul mentioned that, that Brock and Oba spend a lot of time together when Brock's at TV. It does seem like there's a genuine connection and appreciation for those guys, and Oba genuinely appreciates what Brock has done for him the last few months.
So I definitely think that Oba, appreciates it, and everything that, I've heard and seen. Yes, Oba is very appreciative, not only what Brock has done for his career, but even John Cena getting him on that last match card and having a match with Cody. Like, Oba was very appreciative, and he kind of knows the moment. What I will say is watching that back on television, because listen, if you're in this industry and you provide content, or you create content, which all of you should be doing, and you don't go back, if you're live and you don't go back and watch the show, there's certain nuances and aspects that you miss because you just can't see everything. And you also can't hear the announce team. And the announce team is so critical to any professional wrestling or sports entertainment show. 100%. Oba looked like he was not perturbed, but he was very hesitant. And I think that's because Oba was very much in character when Brock was doing his thing, and Brock completely broke character, which you don't ever see from Brock for the most part. And it just almost came off standoffish from Oba's perspective. But I think that was done because Oba was like, okay, we're still in front of the crowd. There's still cameras on us. I have to protect the gimmick. I have to protect myself. And he could have let his guard down, but he didn't. And I think that was very interesting.
So I will tell you my perspective on that because I felt that way. And then watching Oba, like I mentioned in the post show after,
sure,
I wonder if whether Oba knew that was coming and that's what that was from, is he didn't know, like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Because nobody,
Yeah.
like, maybe Brock and Paul and Triple H and the guys in the back knew that, but Oba didn't, because you saw, and I don't know Oba's actual name. You saw Oba the person on the post show putting Brock over, and it was not awkward, and it did not feel like, yeah, he didn't know what to do like it did in the ring at the end of the
Yeah,
show.
I don't think that spot was like pre-planned with Brock grabbing a mic or anything else like that. I think that was all off the cuff.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think somebody probably got in Oba's ear. And I'll just say I know that somebody got in Oba's ear and said, "Hey, you could praise Brock and you could get out of character for a little bit." And he did on the post show. You're 100% right. Again, someone needs to explain to me, if we're going to be critical of this match, which I can be. I thought the match was what the match was. But if you're going to be critical, why did we need a Hell in a Cell for this? The cell wasn't really utilized. There was nothing that screamed that these two behemoths couldn't be contained in their first two matches. It wasn't like they went into the crowd. It wasn't like they went backstage during the matches. Like, it was just, before the Hell in the Cell. Hell in the Cell is a feud blow off, and I get that. And this was that. This was the end of this feud. But if we're going to be overly critical, was I entertained? Yes. Could there have been more? 100%. This left a lot of meat on the bone for me in terms of a Hell in a Cell match.
I would agree. All right, let's move on to Sunday. To me, Sunday was all about moments.
Hold on one second. I want to go back to Saturday and talk about Randy Orton, because I think that return is significant, which we did talk about. But CM Punk retaining the world of the WWE Championship is an interesting one, because we're going to see CM Punk and Kevin Owens, because Kevin returns on Sunday, like I'm sure Blake's going to get to. But realistically, me and you have talked about this. Randy Orton not being involved in the championship picture right now is interesting to me, because Randy is kind of a guy who could easily be a great CM Punk opponent, but when?
I think you're going to see it. I think you're going to see Randy
Royal Rumble?
maybe, or sometime leading it between now and then, because and I was going to get into that when we talk about KO. I think you're going to see Randy get past Cody in this run.
Sure.
Cody, in my opinion, Cody needs to stay away from the title scene at least until WrestleMania.
Agreed.
So you got 6, 7, 8 months and 3 or 4 feuds for Punk to go through before you potentially get back to Cody. So I think.
What'd you think of the match, though? What'd you think of CM Punk and Cody Rhodes? A lot of people were dogging on this.
I thought it was fine. Was it their best match? No. But like, I saw Brian Alvarez's comments. It was not near as bad as he made it out to be.
What did he say?
He said it was one of the worst matches he's seen from those two guys, and it was slow and this and that. Like, it was fine. Again, was this the best wrestling show of all time? No, but it was fine. Like, it was not. Was it a Dave Meltzer 6-star banger? No, but it did its job.
And I thought that Cody and Punk had amazing chemistry. I mean, I truthfully, I did. I thought one of the matches on this card on Saturday that really started off where I was like, oh boy, these two aren't gelling. And then all of a sudden it ramped up and they figured it out, was Liv and Io. I was like, what is happening here? And then they figured it out. So I don't think this match between Punk and Cody was trash or bad or anything else like that. I enjoyed the match thoroughly. It was long. I expected it to be long, but I thought the match was well done.
I saw one of the complaints was that it was slow, but man, for me, like,
everything else was fast.
But that's the style I grew up on, so I enjoy that style. A more old school style of wrestling as opposed to what we see a lot of times nowadays. So, yeah, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't anything. It wasn't the best match I've ever seen, but it didn't suck by any means either.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move into Sunday, because, like I said, Sunday to me was all about moments. It started right out of the gate. I loved the execution of KO's re-debut, because they kind of threw you a smokescreen with Gunther, and then they dropped the hammer with Kevin. And Kevin, Kevin being inserted into the main event scene with Punk is going to be great. But, we talked about this on the phone just a little bit ago before, when we talked about doing a show. You said you went back and watched it, but Kevin's return was so cool, because you could tell how much it meant to him to be back. And listening to Kevin talk in the post show, I see people talking about his comments about Rebel, which we need to talk about that because that was awesome as well.
Sure.
But Kevin talked about the fact that there were periods of time during this 15 months that he didn't think he was going to make it back. So I think the fact that he is able to go back and do obviously what he loves to do meant the world to him. And it was just a really cool moment. And I'm glad you brought up the reaction in house because I did wonder that watching because on TV it was louder than shit.
You know, you had a lot of moments on Sunday. It was kind of like the we want you guys to feel, we want your emotions, we want you guys to feel like happy, the crowd wise. Because you had Chelsea Green, you had Chad Gable, you had a KO return. I mean, there was just so many different the Shield stuff. People, it was just like here's your feels for if you know for wrestling on a Sunday. And KO's return, the building was so loud. So, I mean, I was so happy to see him. And, and I like that they did this in a certain aspect where it wasn't, you know, people were like, oh, KO and Randy are coming back. And I had hinted at it, and I had even broken down both privately and on the air where I thought it was going to happen. And it happened both ways. It just was KO's return was different. He didn't interfere in the Sammy match. He was in it. And I thought to myself, man, that's such a good utilization of a return where Nick Aldis is like, you want to know what? Because realistically, Sami Zayn's going to have an issue with Nick now. And I think that's interesting where, you know, Sami Zayn could get another opponent, whether it's Royce Keys or whether it's a match with Gunther, because right now KO is your number one contender. But I think, again, great utilization of both returns, Randy and KO. The KO one, obviously, the cherry on top because it just wasn't predictable. That wasn't predictable. Even when Gunther came out, I was like, they made it a three-way. And I started to head towards the stands to go see because my son was like, can you see if they have this or that in terms of merch? So I went up and I took a couple steps and then Nick got back on the mic. And I thought to myself, oh, here comes Randy, right? Because he was like, I didn't say, and even then the KO, I was like, wow, just well done. Very well done. Very well done.
And I think, you know, something coming out of that, obviously, I think any wrestling fan would be excited about Kevin Owens and Punk, but, you know, looking at what could be the SmackDown main event scene from now until WrestleMania and even after, you know, some people are going to talk about how they're all older, but who gives a shit? They're all great still. You got Kevin, Sammy, Randy, Cody, Gunther. You know, you can plug guys in, up and coming guys. Trick just lost the U.S. title. Maybe Trick gets up in that scene. You know, SmackDown is stacked with upper level talent right now.
Yeah. Again, Sunday had a lot of things where you're like, ooh, I like where this is going for the future. And this is one of those moments. KO returns and is instantly the number one contender for the WWE Championship, or the Undisputed Champion. They could have went with Gunther. Gunther and Punk, they've had that. They know that there's chemistry there. People would probably be like, all right, here we go again. But I mean, Gunther just came off a victory with Nick Aldis. They could have went Finn. Him and Finn had great matches against each other. One in Dublin and the other one, I don't remember where it was, but I mean, great matches. Chicago. Okay, so there you go, home and home. But again, they went with the KO stuff, and that is, I mean, that could lead all the way through November. And I truly believe that it's going to be very, very entertaining. On paper, those two could talk all day long. And if you think if CM Punk can, you know, fire off, Kevin Owens is going to hit him right back and right back quick in terms of the verbal jousting. You know, again, very interesting. I see a lot of people will talk about the main event with Roman and Seth. But again, there's certain things that you need to pay attention to when WWE does this. And I think KO and Punk is something that's very interesting. Okay. KO has some affiliation and some history with somebody who people have said could be wrestling at WrestleMania in Saudi. And now you had Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns basically complete their final chapter. I mean, I don't know where you would go from there. It's wrestling. Could they do something else? Sure. But that match could have easily taken place in Saudi Arabia, and it is not, because I believe we're headed to another direction with Roman Reigns as well. But KO stuff was well done.
Roman's got two opponents in Saudi. It's one or the other. Well, I'll say three. Three options, which we don't need to talk about now. The other biggest moment, I mean, Chad Gable was great, but the biggest moment was Chelsea Green. I thought that was just really cool. You know, Chelsea, for me personally, Chelsea is one of the most entertaining people on the roster, and she's usually in that comedy role. I took last night as respect for Chelsea and kind of what she's done and who she is on the roster. I mean, you see her doing all kinds of PR. You see her doing anything and everything they've ever asked her to. She is, to me, has been one of the breakout stars on Unreal as far as getting, to invest in Chelsea Green, the person. And look, here's the deal, right? I mean, she's the interim champ. She's going to the only drawback to it, in my opinion, as a Chelsea Green fan, is I feel like the fact that they went with Chelsea probably means that Rhea's back by October at the latest, and that Chelsea may not have this for more than about a month. But who cares? They gave Chelsea her due in front of 40,000 people.
100%. It was another moment. Like, you could have crowned Charlotte, right, for the 15th time, which a lot of people thought, myself included. And then they would have just went to this feud that they were probably going to anyway with Charlotte and Rhea. They went with Chelsea. Chelsea's not going to hold the championship for a while. And if she does, it's a bonus. She's so entertaining. It was a great moment. Good for her. A lot of people were thrilled about it. I mean, absolutely thrilled. The building was loud when she won. When she stood up on the ladder, or she was hanging and then flipped up the spot, everything was just fantastic because the way this was done was so well done because they played with you. She had it. And then you're like, they like, the place came unglued and they were like, oh man, I wish Chelsea would have won. And then smoke cleared again with everybody. And she did win. So good for them. Good for Chelsea. And Chelsea and Rhea in October is going to be is what it is. All right. It's going to be a good match.
Put up Hannibal's comment. I want to.
I don't control that, but I will. We could definitely do that. There you go.
Yeah.
The disappointment with Chelsea is an asterisk.
I completely disagree with. She didn't earn it. She absolutely earned it from her work out. You can not everything. And I love Hannibal, so I don't want this to come off.
How do we judge this?
Not everything is about what you do in the ring. What she does as an employee and everything she has done, she's earned that. So I completely disagree with that statement. It doesn't.
I think he's, and I could be wrong. I don't want to speak for him, but the disappointment with Chelsea is an asterisk. She doesn't deserve that. So I think the disappointment in terms of,
I read it differently. Then if it's that way, then but I want to be clear. I think she 100% earned that moment and earned with everything she's done for this company. She's earned the right to have her big moment.
And I agree. And I'm almost positive. Well, I'll wait for maybe a retort and we can throw it up there. The producers can handle that. But I don't believe that. I don't like when people are like, she doesn't deserve this.
That's not what he meant. Then I interpreted it wrong, Hannibal. So we're all good. Like I said, it's all
Chelsea deserves the sun and the moon and the stars for the character, the way that she does things, the way she interacts with people. She's definitely a star. And is she going to give you, your Dave Meltzer 5-star classics? But no, but at the end of the day, this is World Wrestling Entertainment. And I hate to say it, but entertainment is key here for those of you who just want real graps and want your wrestling. You had a lot of that on this show last night, but Chelsea's very entertaining and I think very well deserving of everything that comes her way.
Agreed. And then the final moment, the final big moment of the night was obviously Chad Gable finally getting over the hump and winning his elusive Intercontinental Championship in front of his hometown fans and his family. Sure. I thought this was really cool. And this is one thing, the match was good. The moment was good. But one thing I thought was really cool all weekend, if you think about these 3 or 4 big moments, Kevin didn't have anything in the ring, but Kevin talked about that his family was there because it was a return match. Nick got his family in the ring. Chad got his family in the ring. They showed Chelsea with Matt and her family.
Triple H had his family in the ring. It was just kind of done under the radar.
Too. Yeah. So it was really cool which is not something that you usually see in WWE. They allowed these people that had these big, career moments to bring their family along with them and make it more about them than the wrestling show.
Yeah, and I would agree. The one thing that I was kind of hesitant on was, when when that bulldog for the mug or
Yeah,
the
that was
pug or
weird.
whatever, I thought to myself, I get the brand placement, but that whoever it was, I don't know. But whoever was under that head, I thought was absolutely going to smash Gable, and he didn't, which was fine because I thought to myself, all right, brand placement. But he was very comfortable in that ring. So, obviously, it was
Yeah, that
probably
I agree.
a
That was
wrestler, but
weird.
it was weird. I get the brand placement, but very weird. They could have done that backstage, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like
Yeah.
like I said, the moment Chad had his whole family, his wife, his kids, his parents in there, like let the dude just have the full moment, and let's not.
Yeah.
I get it. We got to make money. Nobody understands that better than me. But like you said, you could have gone back and had the camera follow Chad through the curtain and had the stupid mug root beer dog waiting for him there or something.
Yeah. Agreed. Totally agree.
Okay. And then Roman and Seth, I mean, listen, you're talking about arguably two of the top 4 or 5 guys in the entire industry right now.
Mhm.
I thought that, personally, I thought it was awesome. I thought Seth's entrance was great. I thought the ending was really cool. The respect for both. I thought the nod, even though they didn't acknowledge it verbally, the nod to Moxley with the mask in the middle,
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And
I mean, I will tell you, they had the entire fan base. I had to just calm people down around me. Oh, by the way, I never got the names of the gentlemen, but the two gentlemen who were sitting like 4 or 5 seats over, who were like, "Hey, man, I don't want to disturb you because you're with your son or whatever, but I love your content. I appreciate the kind words. I know we were rushed out of there, and I made it a point to shake your hands, but I appreciate the kind words. They don't go unnoticed. But everybody around me was like, "Oh, Moxley, he's coming, dude. They're doing," and I had to tell some people, I was like, "He's
give
under
me a
contract."
freaking break, man.
And Tony, I mean, as nice as Tony is, if Tony lets that happen where Moxley can make an appearance, forget about it. Forget about
I
it. And
think, in a different world, if WWE didn't counter program Tony every single month, I, I could see Tony potentially doing something like that, but you can't when they constantly do what they do to you. I mean, you just
right.
can't.
But the other thing, I mean, it's just that the whole mindset of like, yo, and it's like, I love that you guys and girls have this type of like belief and you suspend your disbelief. And maybe some of you don't know contracts and who signed where and anything can and will happen in World Wrestling Entertainment or AEW. But I didn't want to be the guy who sucks the fun out of things, but I was like, boys and girls, he is under full contract. And do you see what these two are doing? These two companies are trying to do to each other, more so WWE than AEW. But I mean, come on, it's not happening.
Yeah, no. Listen, it would have been awesome. I would have freaked out at home if it would have happened, but yeah, it's just not a
Well, then you
reality.
had the internet talking about, and people in the crowd were like, Zilla, Zilla, Zilla. I was like, so
No.
I said to my son, because he was like, oh, I saw that online too, because my son watches some things on YouTube. And he was just like, I heard that too. Somebody predicted that Zilla. I was like, Jackson, let me ask you something. Logically, where does Zilla fit into this? I was like, where does Zilla fit into Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns? Roman already has the quote unquote big heater, and that's Jacob. And
Yeah.
the bloodline was not showing up to this. It was just going to be Seth versus Roman. If Zilla or anybody else was going to show up, they would have showed up in that bloodline versus LA Knight, Royce Keys, and
Yeah.
Solo. And they
Like,
didn't. I just think people set themselves up for such disappointment all the time.
well, and I think, like this match, you had to really pay attention to what they did and what they continue to talk about in the build-up. I get it to a degree. This whole 4 to 5 year run of Roman has been filled, for the most part, with chicanery and a lot of different people showing up to help him continue to stay on top. But if you really paid attention to this, there wasn't a week that went by where Seth didn't talk about the fact that you can't beat me, which made it obvious what was going to happen. Roman was going to beat Seth in the middle of the ring by himself to prove, you can make, I mean, star wise in what they put, you can have the argument about, well, the machine loves Roman, whatever, to prove he's the top guy. That was the point of the match. Um, And I do think so. Coming out of that, I think it leads to some interesting talking points because you hinted at it when we briefly talked about War Games. I don't think you're going to see Seth and Roman tag ever, or at least like not regularly. Like Seth isn't going to be like connected to the bloodline or anything like that. But you kind of had that show of respect, and you're not going to get the Shield anymore. But it, it makes you wonder if you're going to get Seth and Roman as kind of allies of convenience from period of time when it calls for it.
I think it all depends on what you see on WWE Raw tonight, which is a great segue because at the end of the day, how we ended, SummerSlam was kind of like, it was a closing chapter, in my opinion. Could they obviously rekindle this and could they have it? Sure. This match could have easily happened at WrestleMania. It did not. They could have saved it for WrestleMania. They did not. And I truly believe that as things kind of play out here throughout the weeks and into the winter, and then we get closer and closer to the Rumble and Mania, that got to remember the bloodline just lost. Okay. Roman just won. So I'm going to have a funny feeling that the story around Roman Reigns right now, and we'll find out who his contender is going to be. I have a funny feeling it's probably going to be, I think they're going to save Obafemi for the Rumble, but I guess you never know. Could it be Solo? Because Solo's team got the victory. I think it absolutely could be, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think Roman's going to start to doubt those boys that are affiliated with him because they couldn't even beat LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Solo Sikoa. And I think that's the story they're going to tell. And I honestly think as we get closer and closer to what I believe is going to be the WrestleMania match with The Rock involving Roman, I think you're going to see some dissension where Roman, the only ally he's going to have maybe here in the next couple of months is Seth Rollins. And it's a loose ally.
That's interesting because in segueing to Raw, I have two things written down for Raw, which is what's next for Roman. And I agree with you. I think Solo probably should be it because Solo is catching a little bit of fire as a babyface right now.
Yeah.
The only other logical option, in my opinion, would be LA Knight, but we've done that before. And it just doesn't feel like as great a reaction.
Whoever gets fed to Roman in October is going to lose anyway. So both of those predictions you just gave LA Knight's not a bad one.
But what I was going to say is it just feels like LA Knight has been slotted by management now. It's like, hey, he's right there, upper mid, and could be. I just don't know if they see him as that guy. I just don't, honestly.
I could see where you believe that because I feel like there's been some botches, quote unquote, or some things that have happened where they're like, okay, not sure if I could strap the rocket to this guy. And you kind of wonder, hindsight again being 2020, the reactions he gets are insane. So why not give the guy
insane?
Yeah. And it's very interesting that's just not a priority to them, or not something that they're focal on. I think somebody that you're going to see kind of be thrusted into that main event spot, or have main event level matches is Trick Williams. He lost the title to Baron Corbin. I don't think you could have re-debuted Baron Corbin and had him lose that match, truthfully. And I think Trick needs, and I've been saying this for the past 2 months, or at least a month and a half. Trick has excelled and he is no longer fit for mid card. Like he needs to be upper card. And I think that's where they're going with him. So I didn't hate this title change. I think the same thing with Solo here, Blake. I mean, Solo Sikoa, the fans love it right now, and he's very entertaining. So give him a shot at Roman. I mean, realistically, he beat your boys, right? That's what I mean. I beat your boys. I could say that.
I wouldn't say Solo is over as a babyface yet, but he's getting there. He's getting really good reactions, and he got big reactions Saturday. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because if they were to go, Roman has been announced for Money in the Bank in October. So let's say that's his next big match. If that is Solo, I feel like that means we're probably headed to another another Bloodline War Games. It'll just feed into November. If not, it'll be interesting to see. And then obviously the other big talking point I think for Raw tonight is they've been teasing it for weeks. The return of Big Cass.
Yeah.
They are teasing it in a manner to make, we heard weeks ago Big Cass and Enzo are coming back. The vignettes would lead you to believe that Big Cass may be coming back on his own because they're talking about, all of his problems he had in his leading up to his release in his last WWE run. I know you have an opinion. That's why I'm leading there. How do you think this plays out? Do we see Cass on his own? Do we see Enzo and Cass together tonight?
I think when you re-debut the big fella, right? That being Big Cass, who's he going to go against? Like, you're not going to have him go against a newly crowned Chad Gable because Gable's got to win that one. He just had this giant moment. Who are you going to have him go against? Like, what title is he going to? Is he going to have squash matches for a little bit? I mean, I could see it, but WWE's tag team division desperately needs a shot in the arm. And if 8-3 hits, which is today, and it's flashed on the board and whatever, and out comes Big Cass, then all of a sudden the old, Enzo Amore.
Bro, I'll pop out. I will pop
right.
out.
And I think the crowd. I think the crowd will too. And I think that's what you need to do. Have a nostalgia run with them as a tag team and have them win the tag team titles. And then you could have Cass go on his own. I know that now that Cass is clean, good to go. I know that they've always seen money in him. It was always whether he sees money in himself and will take the next steps to do that. And he has. And I think the solo run for Cass will be fantastic business. But I do think they should and will. I want to say that again. Will do the nostalgia tag team
run. Last WWE talking point I have on the slate today, and then we'll get into a couple of AEW related things before we head out. I was expecting something this weekend that we didn't get. We still, as of right now, do not have a September PLE announced. The next major event outside of the AAA event against AEW in Chicago in September is
Sunday night's main event.
Well, there's that, but I'm talking about the next PLE announced is Money in the Bank in October.
Sure.
Last year we did WrestlePalooza in September, and they told us that was going to be a yearly event moving forward. And there's still plenty of time. It's August 3rd. You can announce something, but I do think it's interesting that there is nothing announced for September as of yet.
So, I put out something a long time ago. I don't remember how many months ago it was that they were WWE was considering doing a stadium show in Cardiff. I think that is obviously probably off the table. It was September. I believe that's probably off the table at this point. I knew Money in the Bank was going to be moved. Could we see WrestlePalooza? Sure. I know that WWE had not only reserved or put a hold on Cardiff, but there was like active plans. I think that's where this September show is going to be. What they do next, I'm not quite sure. They could announce a show Saturday before Saturday or Sunday night's main event. Could it be a women's evolution? It absolutely could be. Atlanta, I believe, hosted it last year. And it was a hot crowd. So could they do this? Yes, they could. Will they? I don't know. I do believe you're getting something in September, whether it's WrestlePalooza or whether it's a women's Evolution 3. But I do believe something is coming in September. But I don't believe it's going to be
so too. Like I said, I just thought it was interesting and it wasn't announced over SummerSlam weekend.
Yeah. And I wouldn't expect Roman Reigns to be on that show.
No, it does not seem so. It seems like he's going to do some TV and then he's going to take a month break and then he'll be back in October.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Couple AEW topics before we head out. Obviously, you mentioned it in our graphic and when we put out our post that we were on the show today. Wrestle Dream got announced in Orlando. That's obviously a great market for wrestling. But it begs the question that we've talked about, whether it's Chicago or London again.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me likes the fact that Tony likes to go back to these same places over and over again. But I guess let me ask you this question. In your opinion,
sure,
does Tony hit the same markets too much?
I mean, I would say yes and no. I think that you don't want to oversaturate, but I mean, this is a different time that they're going to Orlando. WWE would run the Garden every 2 years. I know it's MSG, but they would bring a pay-per-view there every 2 years. I mean, 96 was Survivor Series, 98 was SummerSlam, 2000 was the Rumble, 2002 was Survivor Series, and on and on and on, where, they just made it a point to go back there every 2 years. And there was always a Raw and a SmackDown from the Garden in a fiscal year. Do I believe that they go to the same cities and states too much? No, because they know where their bread's buttered. And at the end of the day, they do get good crowds at these places. Should they try something else? Sure. Will they? I don't know. I thought the vibes in terms of like the graphics, I don't know how many. It looked like there were mountains in the graphics. I don't know where there are mountains in Orlando, but I'm sure somebody will correct me.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, that's interesting.
But I do think it's kind of like a blending of why Tony created this pay-per-view, which is the, tribute to Inoki and everything else like that. So, but again, I think it's Orlando. It's October. It's an easy sell for the fans. And I think the last time they were in Orlando was World's End? Like 2 years ago?
Yeah, Hannibal saying 3 years ago. I'm not sure that that's accurate, but he said
I could look it up. Again, Tony's going to go where Tony's going to make some dough, or at least
like I said, I don't blame it.
Sure.
There's an interesting one. See, and that's something I think AEW needs to do. Here's somebody saying AEW needs to go to Puerto Rico. Like, I would love to see AEW hit some places that they haven't hit as much. Whether they went to Orlando 2 years ago or not, they've hit Orlando a bunch. They're going to Chicago again. They're going to Phoenix again. Like, hit some places.
Yeah, if people have an issue with this, though, I mean, realistically, AEW has gone to Arizona both in 25 and 26 for a pay-per-view. I think Orlando was 2024, I believe. Yeah, it was World's End. And I don't think they were there last year. But at the end of the day, Arizona's gotten 2 pay-per-views in back-to-back years. LA.
He is Chicago 47 times a year.
LA's got Revolution back-to-back because they get 10,000 or more people there. So, I mean, I get it.
I do too. I just would like to see them do some more Mount Everest and Disney's Animal Kingdom. Okay.
Well, that's a stretch, Hannibal.
If that's what the graphic was for, that's wild.
That's a stretch. But all right. I mean, we'll let it slide.
If Tony did the graphic for that, then woo.
That's a stretch.
All right. Last couple things. We got Grand Slam Mexico coming Wednesday. Dude, the card is stacked. It should be a really good show. The only thing I will say is I'm not looking forward to is based on everything that's on there, we're looking for about a 4-hour Dynamite.
Yeah.
There's 8 matches announced as of right now, and that's
have they announced that it's like kind of like a super show where it's both Collision
I think there's Collision on the slate for this week, so I don't think it's a super show. I think it's just going to be a long Dynamite.
Interesting. That's not what I had heard, but let me check the graphics. There is a Collision scheduled for August 8th. Interesting.
Yeah. So,
well, they went an hour or where'd they go? 37 minutes or 27 minutes on an overrun last time. So they might be whatever. There you go. 37.
I think it's going to be close to 3 hours with like I said, if there's 8 matches, and AEW doesn't have 5-minute matches like WWE does.
I know. Listen, from everything that I was told, this is a special show, and they're going to use the word special in their promotional material because I do believe this is going to be an extended show. I thought when I was told that, I was like, okay, this is going to be like the Collision that bleeds into, but maybe they just leave it as Dynamite and it's 2.5 to 2 hours and 45 minutes. But I'm not complaining about it because the show is stacked, like you said. The one thing I will say that a lot of people were talking about talking points over the weekend. I had basically told everybody who would listen that WrestleDream was not going to Toronto or Canada. And Tony gave us all that answer on his post-show scrum for, God, what was the pay-per-view that just happened? Redemption. So, again, a lot of people are up in arms saying that they thought this was coming to Canada. I don't believe that was ever the plan. The other thing, too, Copeland made a list of venues that he wants to wrestle in before he retired. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because so obviously Arena Mexico Wednesday night is on it, so he will check that one off the list.
Yep.
Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto is on it, so
that's going to be checked by Maple Leaf Pro.
Oh, is that where that event's running? I didn't.
Yes.
Okay, and then the Tokyo Dome was on it, which would tell you that Copeland is probably going to work Wrestle Kingdom in January.
Yes.
The opponents, he had some opponents on there. You could see Omega written.
Yes.
But based on the way the photo, he hasn't revealed the opponents list yet. Mm-hmm. So I do think that's interesting because obviously, we're whether it's the end of his career or just the end of his AEW run, I think we're nearing the end of Adam Copeland's time in AEW.
100%. Again, I think that the whole Christian and Cage or Christian and Cope run, especially with them wrestling the Young Bucks at Wembley Stadium, maybe you get a stipulation, maybe you get a third team. Shit, maybe you get 4 teams. I don't know. But this is obviously a bucket list thing for him. The Maple Leaf Gardens. I know that Adam has already wrestled there.
Didn't they have a Cope and Cage match there early on in his first run?
But he wants to get back there, and he's going to do that. And I don't think AEW is going to go back there, so it makes sense that he's doing Maple Leaf Pro. And the Tokyo Dome will be something that he is in co-collab with AEW and New Japan. I think February will be an interesting month for Adam Copeland and AEW, and whether or not he is brought back. I have a funny feeling that I don't know. I think he signed through 2028. I want to say I'd have to look, but I know that if there's any way that Copeland could maybe get on that WrestleMania Saudi card with Christian, I think that would be something that they would want to do. I don't know. I could look it up. I have it written somewhere. Christian's contractual status with AEW. I don't know, but I want to say, okay, he signed a multi-year extension in mid 2024 that he had approximately 3 years remaining on the deal. So that's through 2027. Could it be where he's done in March and I guess would be a free agent come April or whenever they're going to do WrestleMania? Maybe. But I think it's highly unlikely. But I could easily see Copeland re-upping with AEW for a little bit. But I don't think Copeland wrestles into 2028 with AEW.
Oh, yeah. I don't either. Okay. Final thing I have is just we talk about tickets a lot, and it's a big when I looked earlier today, All In's about 35,000 sold as of right now. We got 27 days to go till the show. They're still formulating the card. Again, like we talked about in terms of SummerSlam, 35 is nothing to scoff at, man. That's a solid amount of tickets allotted, but we still have almost a month to go. Realistically, Drew, what do you see AEW getting to for All In sales? We're a month out. I mean, we talking 5,000, 10,000 more? Give me a ballpark number you think, sitting here a month out.
First and foremost, shout out to Will Ospreay. Thanks for being so cool to my kid. I really appreciate that. And that being said, with All In, I think that I don't think so. But I think with Ospreay and the Omega build and Bucks and Copeland and Cage and everything that show stands for, I think they're going to get, I would say by showtime, I would say over 45,000, probably creep into 50-ish. But I could easily see that being something where it gets to 55-ish too. I mean, I think they get 6. More? Do I think they get 60, 70,000 people in there? No, I think 55 would probably be like the height. And you're like, okay, 55,000, but you never know. I think if I had any say in what these two companies do with their tickets, now is the time. We are 20 some odd days out. I am slashing prices now. Yeah. Because you want to know what
they did for WWE in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there was only 20,000 tickets sold for SummerSlam, 22,000.
15,000 both nights.
Yeah, again, I understand what you guys and girls are doing, but you need to take a step back and put yourself in the consumer's shoes. And a lot of you don't. And I understand that because you have numbers to hit and projections to hit and everything else like that. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, would I pay the type of money I'm asking for to sit in that seat? And if the answer is no, change your fucking prices.
Well, and I think, from when it comes to all in, we talked about this earlier today too. When you're factoring in the ticket price, and I know the ticket prices is still a minor thing as far as this, but when you're trying to entice people from Minnesota, where you live, or Texas, where I live, to endure going across the pond and what
Right.
that would cost, you need a price break somewhere to get people to do it. Because, like, I mean, that's the thing for me. Like, listen, I love wrestling, but at 44, I ain't spending 2 G's to go to a wrestling
Dude,
show.
I remember when it was like cheap, whether they would hold, different things in different places. And it was like, oh, okay, Vegas, hotels, flights are so cheap. I don't mind spending a little extra or having a high price ticket to go to an event. Like, if the ticket cost me $500, so be it. I know I was getting a hotel room for 200 and my flight out there was 300 round trip or 290,
Yeah.
250 round trip. Now it's the ticket cost $1,000. The flights are 600 and the hotel rooms are 399 a night. I know some people be like, bro, you could stay at Circus Circus. I ain't staying at Circus Circus. All right. So I'm just saying, like, you got to make things affordable. All right.
Yeah,
Come on.
I agree, man. That's
My
So,
friends will tell you, do I have a little bit of bougie in me in terms of hotels or where I want to be?
a
I
little,
do.
a
I do.
little.
I do. I think that's important to people. You should want people to be safe at a hotel or stay at a safe place and stuff like
Listen,
that. So,
just so y'all know, if you're going somewhere with Baydala, you're staying at a $500 a night hotel.
boy.
You're eating $200 meals. You're drinking $200 booze.
Anyways, I just think things need to be
Notice
more
you didn't
affordable
deny
for
it.
these people. I'm not, because that I would be lying.
That's all I got for today. So unless you got something else, we can.
That's it. I mean, I did you enjoy SummerSlam from a viewer's perspective? What?
So yes, I enjoyed it overall. Was it the best SummerSlam ever? No, and not by a long shot. But listen, here, the one thing I will say, for me, I want to stress this. For me, as a wrestling fan, being able to watch a show like I did last night that started at 5 and ended at 8:30 was awesome. I know that AEW has a big market of fans and they love those shows, but man, for me, again, I want everybody to hear me. For me, undertaking a 5-hour pay-per-view, even at home, is daunting, man. And it's just something that just feels like, oh my God, I want this to end
I think
sometimes.
your consumers constantly tell you what they like and what they don't like. And the fact that I was in my car both nights by 8:20 Central Time is wild, because there were times where I was at a pay-per-view and the third match hadn't even kicked off by 8:20.
Yeah. So, and listen, night one was okay. I thought night two was really good, top to bottom.
I
With the
thought this show
moments,
was better than WrestleMania.
it was with the
The
moments
Punk
they
match
gave
was
you,
better at WrestleMania, but
combined with Gable, like they fed your
sure.
wrestling itch with Gable. I think Roman and Seth fed your wrestling itch a little bit. Then they provided you a lot of moments. I thought night two was really good. Night one was fine. Night two, in my opinion, was really good. But yes, being able to watch a show and it being over at 8:15, 8:30 was freaking awesome.
I agree. I also agree that I understand people want their money's worth for their pay-per-views. These are 2-night shows. AEW is not doing that, number one. Number two, again, would I like to have seen these shows at night, like where the sun is not out? Yes. But at the end of the day, they don't control where they're at. I mean, they take the
But
big site fees and that's it.
there,
I don't want them
there
starting
again,
later.
there again, I think that is a difference between. We talked about this morning off the air. I think that's a difference between being there live and being there and watching on TV. Watching on TV like I did because I couldn't be there this round. Yeah, man, the entrances and stuff look a whole lot better when it's dark in the arena.
For sure.
But if I was you, just like you talked about, if I could go down there and be home as it was just getting dark, dude, sign me up for that every single time.
And that's the thing, Blake. I totally get it, but your fan base has constantly told you that they don't need a 6-hour show to be thoroughly entertained. And if you want to do a 4.5 hour, 5 hour pay-per-view, I have no problem with it. Start it at 5 o'clock.
But yeah, and here's the thing, right? I think, and for me, if you did, like, we're coming up on one. If All In's 5 hours, fully okay with that because it's the biggest show of the year. It's their WrestleMania.
Right.
I didn't need Redemption to be 5 hours. I don't need Revolution, all these other ones. I don't need random WWE monthly pay-per-views to be 4 or 5 hours either. Like, if you're going to give me that 5 hour show, make it special and make it something you do on occasion. Don't make it something you do every single time.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Again, I thought this was very entertaining. I thought this show worked. I have no issues with it. I thought, again, in and out of Minneapolis was a breeze, and it normally isn't. It normally
and you live in Canada.
I mean, I do. We live in the middle of nowhere on purpose. We won't, we have a good neighborhood here, and we want our kids to grow up with land, and not have to. Yeah. I have a lot of people in the comments asking who is, Roman. I'm going to go, who's Roman taking? I'm going to go with Solo. I do believe the Ova Femi match is coming. That's the big thing coming out of Monday Night Raw that I am paying very close attention to, and you all should as well. What are they doing with Oba?
See them do with Oba? I'd like to see. I wouldn't mind seeing Oba confront Roman tonight, but Roman kind of give you the, hey man, you had your way to me and you passed it up. Now you got to work your way to me and let Oba do a program. Let him run through Jay for a month or two, and then let him have to go through Jacob, and then
I like it.
Come January, assuming Rocky's locked in, come January, you give Oba his moment at Rumble.
I like it. I like it because I told y'all, if you would listen, that Roman was going on a long run. And everyone's like, nah, he's dropping the title at SummerSlam. He's going to go home for a little bit. No, it's not happening. It's not happening. And I truly believe that, he signed a new 3-year deal right before WrestleMania 42. So that puts him at WrestleMania 45 to kind of wrap things up. And I think you're going to continue to see, at least this year, because they gave him a lot of money, TKO and Endeavor, and rightfully so. They're going to have him heavily involved in 2026, and he has been. So again,
I think you're going to see him potentially heavily involved this entire contract, because here's a key component to it that I think is why he was willing to work more.
Roman's more money.
Well, that and Roman's kids are all school age now, so like he doesn't have 5 kids at home that they're taken care of constantly. They're in school. They're all in school now, so it's not as daunting on his wife to have to chase around 5 kids if he's on the road constantly.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. Again, what I'm looking forward to tonight on Monday Night Raw is what they do with Oba Femi, where he goes from here. I could see him easily having an interaction with Roman, and what you said, I think was very, very good in terms of, hey, you're going to have to earn it now. You decided to go after Brock. I smashed Brock numerous times. You should have came after me. Now you got to re-earn it. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. But I will tell you, for those, predicting or wanting to say what they believe or some of their thoughts are going to happen, I could tell you right now that Roman and Oba are going to have an interaction tonight. Where they go from there, we'll have to wait and see.
And that's what needs to happen. You need to set the table, but you don't want that match now, because you don't want Oba losing to Roman. If they have it in September, October, that's what's going to happen. They're not going to put Oba over now.
No, and I also heard a lot of people talking about, switching gears here for a quick second, about Stephanie Vacour. And I think tonight would be the perfect night to have Stephanie come back if she's ready. There was no need for her to show up in the Liv Morgan match. You Liv and EO, their feud's done. Liv gets a victory after a lot of people were just like, oh man, she never defends the title and she's going to drop it. I believe that returning Stephanie Vacour helps this division out. So we'll see.
100% it doesn't. And that's something interesting. And we need to get off the air, so I don't want to bog down for a long time on this. But man, they showed it in Unreal, and there were a lot of complaints at WrestleMania about how short that match is. Obviously, Stephanie was jacked up, and the fact that you can still in freaking August see remnants of that knot on Liv's head.
Yeah,
Liv was jacked up too.
Yeah. And again, we want to make sure that if you're going to trot out talent, I know they're all warriors. This isn't ballet, blah blah blah, but want them to be okay. I mean, look at Bianca. I know Bianca has been blessed to be pregnant right now, but I mean that finger is still not good.
That's the worst finger injury I've ever seen, man.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of them. My hands are all jacked up from football.
Yeah, mine too, from football.
But I mean, yeah. I don't
broken,
know. All right, Blake.
Broken a wrist, multiple fingers, and
yeah. Where can everyone like, subscribe, and follow you?
Yeah, my Twitter handle or X handle, whatever, is just my name at Blake Mitchmore. I kind of stay away from a lot of stuff for the most part. Hey, but randomly Dave Meltzer quote tweets me, so hey.
Yeah. Hey, all right.
Nice to know that I get on Dave's radar every now and then.
Shout out Dave Meltzer. I wish WWE would do.
Drew's a big Dave Meltzer guy.
I have no issue with Dave.
Whatever.
I wish WWE would do. I don't have any personal issues with Dave. I wish WWE would do the pay-per-views closer to the nighttime. I like seeing, lights and pyro. It adds to the. I agree.
From a viewership perspective on TV, 100%. If you're there live, I'm all about getting home early.
Yeah. All right. I am at Andrew Baydala, Final Bell Media. Make sure that you guys hit the bell for notifications, subscribe, like, and follow so that when we go live, you will know. Is Dom Mysterio in the doghouse? I don't believe so. But, who knows?
I just think, man, I think at this stage in his career, and he's not, the term bulletproof is something you typically use for a guy like Seth or Roman, but to a degree, I think Dom is bulletproof in the in the vein of like, Dom can do that goofy shit and he can still come out and get the same reactions that he normally will. Dom's not going to be hurt by that.
Yeah, I think when you look at a Danhausen match and you're going to have Danhausen go over, who in the roster is bulletproof right now? Dom Mysterio is bulletproof.
No.
Also, is that a Starbucks you got on Mr. Baydala Fire? It is. Great eye. All right. I am at Andrew Baydala. He's at Blake Mitchmore. This is Thanks for the House. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed SummerSlam. If not, leave a comment in the YouTube and let me know why you didn't or why you did. And I'm sure that producers will get it to us and maybe we can respond to some. But thanks for joining us on a Monday. I hope you guys and girls enjoy Monday Night Raw. Again, hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. Hit the bell for notifications so that when we go live, you will know. I am at Andrew Baydala. He is at Blake Mitchmore. And we are out of time.